Can you hear me okay? I've been in so many Zoom meetings where the first thing I say is not hello. Can you hear me okay? So anyway, I got used to that anyway. So I just want to say little incident that happened in our family this spring when we planted gardens. So we usually love to plant gardens and grow vegetables and use it for our food. This year I had thought about doing tomatoes, carrots and some cucumbers, which is usually what we do. We thought we'll do that, maybe more of them. So we had a nice time planting all the seeds and having them sprout out and taking care of them. Maybe a couple of weeks or 3 later, I was finding out that we had some rodent problem. So not only those rodents were trying to eat the plants, I'm sure many of you have dealt with it, and then we also had this problem where they were leaving some trials leading to a bush. I was like, I'm going to determine to take care of the rodents. I don't want them to be messing with the garden. Then I thought, well, why don't I just wait and see when the rodent comes that I can follow it, because I don't want to go to a wrong bush and take us for a wrong rodent. So I was just waiting for it to show up. So they showed up one morning, and I was thinking maybe the first thing I need to do would be to scare them. So I took a small pebble, and then I actually threw the pebble on the top of the rabbit. I was thinking they're going to scare away and run. But what I did was I picked the pebble back and threw it back at me. And I was like appalled. I was like, how could that happen? How could this ever happen? I just couldn't believe myself. I thought the next thing I could do would be to take care of them if I can. I thought I'm going to get hold of them, take them to the bush, obviously. So I went behind them and catched them. And the moment I caught them, they talked to each other in obviously some language I couldn't understand. And suddenly a drone came with about 70 to 100 rabbits. They were dropped on me. And they got hold of my hands and my legs, and they were all over my body, and they made me completely immobilized. And not only that, they dragged me to that bush. And I couldn't believe myself that is what was happening. So they got hold of me, and then they took me to the bush. There I was tied up, and then I just couldn't do anything with it. So I asked this bunch of rabbits in there, what do you want me to do? How are you going to let me off? They said the only way would be like they get a fresh load of carrot every day in the morning, delivered to the bush. That's the only way that will let me off, because other than that, there is no way out of this. I made a deal with them. I said, well, if we do that, would you actually let me off? He said, yep, that'll be fine. So I took my phone, and then I started to make a Walmart order. And the location to deliver was a bush that is just behind our house. So, and then the rabbit thought, well, I have to validate this is going to work. So it let me in there for about 3 days. And then 3 days the order got delivered at 7 a.m. in the morning. I had to pay $3 for the order and then $5 for shipping, so it was a little expensive. And then I was like, well, it's what's my freedom? So I ended up, after 3 days, I was let go, and then I came home. My wife got hold of my credit card statement. She was thinking, honey, what is going on with this, like $7 or $8 bill on a daily basis? So I told her the entire ordeal of what happened. She thought, well, the only way to save money would be to maybe not order from Walmart, but maybe go to a big box store, like, really like Sam's Club or Costco, and maybe get a big sack of it. That way it is a little cheaper and bunnies are also happier. So we thought, well, let me try that. So I went to Costco, and then I got a big, really big bag of carrots, some of them canned. That way they are fresh and, not like, not super spoiled. So I ended up, getting them off and dropping them in the bush. And then I got an email from the rabbits. They told me like they don't like canned food. They hate them. It's so salty. It is unhealthy. They just don't like it. They can't open the cans apparently. They didn't have a can opener. So and then I think, well, what do you want me to do? He said, go back and get your Walmart order. And I thought, that's going to be expensive. And then I was like, maybe what if I make a deal? I'll send my wife to you. Talk to them. Because it's just between my wife and you. I might have to work this out. So I sent my wife, and then she talked to the rabbit team, and then they actually came up with an agreement, like we would still get a cheaper carrot from Walmart, but she's going to get a refrigerator right there. That way they can store them for like a week or two, that way they stay fresh. So that's what we have done this year to get rid of a rodent issue. Ever since we did that, there has been no issues at all, and we've been doing really great. So I just want you to know this. It's copyrighted to me, so if you want to use this, you have to send royalty to me. So with that, have a great evening.
All right. believe I'm looking at Arin. It's written in cursive. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna give you a minute. I'm just getting them prepped. I'm out of announcements, so we're gonna give you. We're gonna have to give you just a few minutes.
I'm probably going to talk fast because I'm nervous.
You're a month friend. Don't be pretty nervous.
My brother's doing this, and I don't know what it means.
Volume.
Can we talk loud?
That's good.
That's good.
All right, here we go.
Hi, my name is Arin. I'm from the Bloomington Storytellers Guild. Homie, y'all have been fishing before. Okay, good. I'm going to tell you about the first time I caught a fish. Now, the first time I went fishing was with my Girl Scout troop, and my line ended up in the trees more than it ever did the water, and the only thing I got to bite was a little itty bitty catfish about the size of my hand that I pulled from the water with such enthusiasm it went flying through the air and unhooked itself from my line and went down a foxhole. And I decided right then and there that I was done with fishing. But fishing wasn't done with me, because every summer we would go to Florida to visit my grandmother, who lived in one of those retirement communities down there, which are boring when you're a kid. So the adults would always find like fun day trips to send us on. And you know, sometimes they send us to the beach or the aquarium, and one year they sent us deep sea fishing. And you know, the process of deep sea fishing is, you know, they've got this boat and it's got the lines already pre-rigged on the sides of the boat, and they take you around to the different fishing spots. And you just drop your line and you wait. And you do that for 6 hours. And for those of you who remember what it's like being 12, doing something that you had already decided you don't want to do for 6 hours is a waste of a fine summer's day. But as my mother always reminds me, sometimes we have to do things we don't want to do. And so I was set up next to 2 professionals. I mean, these guys looked the part of stereotypical fishermen. They had the hats and the beards and the tans, and I half expected them to pull out pipes and start spinning yarns right there on the deck. But they didn't. No, they were pulling in fish after fish, and they were announcing their catch and just chucking it in a cooler next to them. And I couldn't tell you now what they were catching, but they were catching fish and I wasn't. And they noticed that I wasn't because they started giving me little tips, like this is how you bait your hook and this is how far down you want to drop your line. And I started getting things to bite, but then they started telling me that it was too small and I had to throw it all back. And I was bored because I still wasn't catching fish. But I wasn't bored forever, because at one of the last stops, I got a bite, a good bite. And I knew it was a good bite because it was so much more difficult than anything that I had gotten before, all those babies that I'd been pulling up. He was thrashing and yanking and pulled my line clear out of my rod. And I was struggling. And the 2 fishermen next to me, they noticed that I was struggling, and they pulled up their lines and they started giving me like tips on how to reel it in. They kept telling me like, okay, so like this, you're gonna reel it in and let it go a little bit and then reel it in as far as you can. And they kept insisting that the rod wasn't going to break. That I could trust the rod wasn't going to break. And I didn't know why they were saying this until I saw the fin breach the water, and one of them said, yep, that's a shark. Now I don't know about you, but growing up in Indiana, my only encounters with sharks was the movie Jaws. And so when they told me I had a shark on my line, I freaked out. I didn't know what to do. I was like, okay, I'm just not going to catch it then. I'm going to let it go. And they were like, no, you got to catch it now. And I was like, I remember asking them, why would I catch the shark now? And they're like, what would I do with the shark? And they said, you'll worry about that after you catch it. Which, looking back, is really good life advice. But then, in the moment, when you're 12-year-old and you're fighting a shark that's twice your size to a crowd of strangers, which is every 12-year-old girl's worst nightmare, you just wanted to let it go. Why reel it in if you don't have to? But I did reel it in. I reeled it in. I got it out of the water with blisters on my hands and the biggest smile on my face. And as I stood next to the fish and they took a picture of it, I was so proud. I felt so accomplished because I finally caught my first fish, and it was a 6-foot, 200-pound lemon shark. And when the fishermen asked me to trade their catches, I let them, because what am I going to do with a lemon shark? And so my parents met me at the dock, and I had a cooler full of fish and a story to tell. And I hope you enjoyed it.
Nice. As our judges are tallying those, Jimmy, come to the stage and prepare. Jimmy James. Okay, we'll come back to Jimmy at the end, just in case we step away. Dr. Allen. All right, Jimmy. All right, here we go.
Fellow fairgoers, I may be on a path for a Nobel Prize in Physics based on my space discoveries. For years, I've been intrigued with the possibility of extraterrestrial life. That's life out in the universe beyond our planet Earth. Now we have the James Webb Space Telescope out in the middle of nowhere, past the Earth and the Moon. It can look at exoplanets. Those are planets going around stars beyond our solar system. It can even look at the atmospheres of those planets. I was thinking, I'll look for some intelligent life. I'll look for Freon in that atmosphere. That would indicate intelligent life, but not as intelligent as us, because we've realized that Freon depletes the ozone layer and lets in too much ultraviolet. I'm looking. Oh! Planet Serendipity, orbiting Alpha Centauri, has Freon in its atmosphere. That's an indication of intelligent life. That James Webb analyzes infrared heat energy. Not only that, for planet Serendipity, there's strange perturbations in the infrared signal. I took the data and put it through the computer program, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT. What does this data mean? It came back. It's Morse code smoke signals. The message is, come to our planet. It may be 100 degrees, but all the free air conditioning you want. I was shocked. I called President Trump. There's extraterrestrials, space aliens. Where? Around Alpha Centauri. What state is that in? No, it's in outer space. Can I hit them with a missile? I've got the button right here. No, they're too far away. They may be friendly, and they may have precious metals. Okay, good to know. Keep me informed. I'll include you in my morning briefing. Out in the universe, there's a quandary. Dark matter. It holds the galaxies together, but scientists can't see it and don't understand it. I may have figured it out. Albert Einstein noted that mass and energy under the right conditions can transform. I discovered that when those light waves go billions of miles through the universe, once in a great while, their light energy waves coincide at a peak and it transfers into dark matter. Being the one that discovered the process, I called this dark matter mass Schmidtium. Looking further through the web data, I was shocked. There's an asteroid on a collision path with the Earth. I coordinated with Elon Musk. We sent up a SpaceX rocket to nudge that asteroid just a little bit out of the way. It made a spectacular red light through the night sky away from Earth. You may not have heard about these space discoveries, but I can assure you they're out for peer review in the appropriate scientific journals. So if I actually get a Nobel Prize in Physics, remember, you heard it here at the fair first.
Wait, maybe the same alien who tried to tell us.
Probably so. All right, okay. The judges are still doing their thing, but Rick, if you would come and prepare to get started. We are at our time, but we love stories, so we have two more tellers. We've got Rick, and then we have Forrest. And so we're going to stay and hear them out, and then we'll find out who the winners are.
Before I get started, I know they're still judging, but I hear that there's a special on Schmidtium cocktails at the fair bar. We need to make sure that you're doing that after the show.
All right, okay, so take it away.
When I was younger, I decided that I wanted an adventure before I started my actual job. So I got a job being a tour guide in Alaska. And just after Memorial Day, I was going to be a tour guide for the summer, so I got on a plane and flew to Anchorage. And while I was on the plane, I studied my guidebook so I would know what to say to all my tour groups. First Monday in June, I started my first tour, and the bus driver and I would take people around to Alaska. We would be able to see the mountains, and we would see the glaciers and all the wildlife. I talked about the history of the native Alaskans and the history while Alaska was part of Russia, and then when Russia sold Alaska to the United States. I was enjoying it very much. The only problem was summers go fast in Alaska, and the tours start to shut down about the middle of August, because those of us back here who are coming to Alaska are getting ready for football and school and the state fair and other things like that. And the people in Alaska are getting ready for the winter that comes really soon in Alaska. So at the end of July, I got a call from my boss, and he said, "How would you like to stay in Alaska for a few more weeks?" I said, "Well, what do you have in mind?" He said, "You have been an actor really playing the role of a tour guide. Now, in mid-August, I want you to switch, and you're going to be an actor playing a moose. Because in late August, the moose start going back to their homes, and they're not as visible to the tourists. And when tourists come through, they want to see moose and other wildlife. So we want to make sure they have a good experience." I said, "Okay, I'd like to stay in Alaska. I'll be a moose." So the third week in August, I began my career as a moose. I would go to a little hut that was about 300 yards away from the road, and it was hidden in a little grove of trees so that the tourist buses couldn't see it. In the hut, it was very comfortable. They had a little seat for me. I had snacks. It was heated. And I would put on my moose costume there. And when the bus would get close by, they would call me on my walkie-talkie and say, "We're coming. We need you to be a moose." So I would put on the moose head that had, of course, the moose ears and the big antlers that would go out the side, and there was a place where I could see out the front. I couldn't see much to the left or the right, but I could see kind of through a mesh. And so I would walk out from my hut and I would go behind this hedge so people couldn't see my feet, but they could see my shoulders and they could see my head. And I would do my head from side to side like a moose would, and the tourists were all delighted. They would take out their cameras and take pictures of me, and they would wave and talk to each other. And everything was going great for about 2 weeks, until one day I got a call on the walkie-talkie to come out and do my moose act. I went out, I was going back and forth, but the tourists weren't pointing at me and weren't taking pictures of me. They were looking to my right. So I turned and I saw it, a grizzly bear. And I remembered from my guidebook training that grizzly bears think moose are delicious, and they're also a lot faster than either humans or moose. So I turned around and started running as fast as I could back to my hut. I turned around and I could see that this grizzly bear was gaining on me and I was not going to make it. So I tossed the head of the moose, my moose head, back over my shoulders so I could run faster. And I was running and running, and I almost made it. I was only 10 yards away from my hut when I felt these sharp claws grab me, pulled me to the ground, and I thought I was done for. And at that moment I heard this voice say, "Dude, put back on your head or we're both going to get fired." And that's when I met my friend Brett.